Hello, hello, and welcome. It's that time again where we gather around the holler goblin and tell spooky stories. Everybody tap the screen, send some hearts. More hearts means more people, means more ghost stories. Let's get this show on the road. Last night was really good, guys. Last night, if you weren't here, you definitely missed a very good show, didn't they, Chris?
Yes, they did.
Yeah, you did. So, if you're new here, be sure to stick around and listen to the stories. We do spooky stories, we do paranormal stories, extraterrestrial, cryptid, unexplained, glitch in the matrix. Once in a while, we get a Loch Ness Monster story. And that's always super
Yeah.
cool. We also just do randomly scary stories, like things that have nothing to do with the paranormal. But we actually don't get too many of those, do we? I think we've got a couple. But
Yeah.
yeah.
We
How's
also do
everybody
X
doing?
rated stories here.
No, we don't. Nope. Well, I don't know. Maybe by accident once in a
Only
while.
on Sundays, actually. Yeah, only on Sundays.
How's everybody doing tonight? You guys tap the screen, send some hearts. Let's get out into the TikTok algorithm.
Oh boy, I'm
What
ready.
are you ready?
I'm ready to hear some stories. Yes.
I'm not ready. I feel like I have no razzle dazzle tonight, guys.
We'll get through it. We'll get through it.
Real quick, before we get anybody in the box, I want to let you guys know that we have a subscriber only Discord. It's super fun. We do like little live streams, like little mini live streams over there. We get on voice chat, we hang out, we talk, we tell ghost stories, we talk about crazy stuff, stuff that we can't talk about here. We also have like a whole bunch of different channels on there for different conversations. We post pictures, all kinds of cool stuff. So if you guys are interested, feel free to hit the subscribe button and come and join us at the Discord. It's a really fun time. I think you'll like it. It's also a very good way to support the channel. So if you enjoy what I do here and you want to throw a little bit of support my way, I'd really appreciate it. You also get cool emojis that you can spam the comments with. So kind of like I wish I had a quicker way to do this, but I'll throw some big feet, Bigfoot, big feet. Throw some out in the comments
Yes.
here. Takes me forever because I have to push like 20 buttons to be able to leave one comment.
Hmm.
It's so difficult. Um,
The Matrix is a fictional movie. Great movie, by the way.
yep. Yeah, I don't really know much about glitch in the matrix stuff. It's kind of a new topic to me. But Tony, if you want to chirp in the comments, maybe you could come up here and tell us one of your stories.
Yeah,
We are doing
definitely.
good, Harry. Um, all right, guys, tap the screen, send some hearts. Let's get some people in here. The guest box is open if anybody has a paranormal story of any of these persuasions that you want to share. I don't know what's going on. My green screen keeps eating me. I keep disappearing. My chair and my hair are pretty much the same color, so I keep disappearing. So I might as well just stay off the screen at this point. But yeah, guest box is open, guys. If anybody wants to come up and share a story, if you're a troll, you're gonna get yeeted pretty quickly. Just saying.
You'll get poofed.
You'll get poofed. So what have you been
Espe-
doing, Chris?
Oh, not much. Just I was actually playing some PS5, and the time was going by quick. Before I knew it, it was already time to get ready for this.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. Those
Yeah,
last 2 hours, it just kind of creeps up on you. And I find myself always kind of like rushing around for the last 2 hours to get ready and get
yeah.
up here and, yeah, get everything going. I see Holly in the comments. Hello, Holly. Harry, how are your ghosts doing? You want to come up and tell us? Give us an update?
Yeah. How's your shadow person infestation going? Imagine if his shadow people were all Hat Man.
Like a whole bunch of
Hat,
Hatmans.
yeah, Hat Men.
Yep.
What's up, Harry?
Not much. It's been pretty calm. For some reason, it seems like only when I get on with you guys, then it peaks up.
All right.
Maybe talking about them, I don't know.
Yeah, they like the attention.
But right now, it's been pretty slow. Uh, haven't really seen anything since that the other night when I told you about it, blocked out the light there.
Yeah.
I do have kind of a spooky or a story. It's not mine. My brother told it to me, and he was at a party. This was quite a few years ago, and the person they were with, one of the people that was at the party along with them, said he sold his soul, and he told them that he was going to burn that night. And I guess later on, when everybody kind of passed out, whatever, and he was just screaming bloody murder in his sleep. Well, the parents of people who hosted the party came out there, woke him up, told him to get off the property. They don't want him there no more. And he threatened them, told them that he'd come back and all this stuff in another form. Well, everything kind of died down. The guy left, and later on that night, something came at their house, tried to get in, and was scratching at their walls and a door. I've seen the scratch marks. It was like 3 claws, just about 6-7 feet high in the air, just scratching down there. And my brother, he was talking to the dad, and he ended up going to a priest, and they said to put white crosses on the window, as it sounded like it was like a hellhound, is what they said. So that's the story. But I've actually seen the scratches in the wood. I don't know. That's what I have.
How big were the scratches?
Oh, they were at least an inch deep, and probably about the 3 finger widths if you spread your fingers apart down the wood.
So pretty damn big then, huh?
It was, he was telling me about it, and then I saw the scratch marks, and it kind of spooked me a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really weird.
Then there's another one. My brother lived on that property for a while. He rented a place from him. And he said one night it was really, really foggy out. And he was sitting in the house just watching TV. And he kept hearing something outside. And they had a fuel oil drum out there. That's what they used the heat with. He kept hearing that boom. It hit the drum, whatever it was. And you could hear it walking around the trailer that he was staying in, and it kept hitting that. He stepped outside and he said you couldn't see nothing. It was so foggy, but he kept hearing that, and but he never saw anything. But it spooked the hell out of him. That's all he told me about that one.
Yeah. Holy cow.
That's only probably about 5 or 6 miles from me. It's not that far.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe just this whole area.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like your whole area has some high strangeness and paranormal activity going on in it.
Yeah. But that's about it for me.
Alrighty. Well, we appreciate you coming up as always, Harry, and we'll see you in the Discord.
Oh, yeah. I'll be there. See ya.
All
See you
right.
here.
All right. Everybody tap the screen. Tap, tap, tap. Do some snoot boops. It's free. Chris, you're going to have to turn on your camera sometime so they can give you snoot boops.
All right, I will. Maybe next time. What's up, Charlie?
Is he connecting?
I don't think so.
All right, Charlie. For some reason, you're not connecting. So if you're still here, I'm going to drop you down and go ahead and re-request if you have a story that you want to share. If anybody else has a story of any of these topics, or just something generally terrifying, we want to hear your spookiest spooky story. Feel free to get in the box, come up and tell us your story. And in the meantime, everybody tap, tap, tap the screen. And get some hearts going, get some people in here, get us out into the algorithm.
It'll get rolling.
I know, that's why I tell everybody, like at the end of the night, we always have like so many people that I can't get to everybody. And I'm always like, get here early because we sit here with nobody for like 30 or 45 minutes.
Right. Sometimes. Not last night.
Yeah.
Hey.
Hey.
Hi, everybody. I am so sorry I fell asleep last night. I couldn't help it. I work 2 jobs, and sometimes when people be telling their stories, they have the ASMR voices, and it lulls me to sleep. But the good thing is that I lull to sleep listening to paranormal stories.
That's the best way to do it.
Yeah, you're with us in spirit.
Oh, by the way, Sarah, you're in Kentucky. Is that Eastern time or
Yeah.
Central? Eastern.
Eastern.
Okay. I think that's part of the reason why everyone comes on in so much later, is because they probably don't know that you're Eastern time.
Yeah. I usually try to put it on the thing if I remember to advertise, but we were just talking about this a minute ago. I always run out of time on nights before the stream and I never get to advertise, but I usually put it on the little banners and stuff. But yeah, I don't know.
I hope I haven't missed much. I just got here.
No, we haven't really had anything going on yet. Harry came up and gave us a little update on his ghosts and told us a couple of cool stories, and we're kind of just now getting going. So,
All right, cool. I'm gonna mute and then get settled in, and I'll come back.
okay, sounds good.
Okay.
Also, for the mods, we have a Showtime mod channel up and ready to go. So if you guys feel like it, you can feel free to pop in over there. And if anybody else is interested, go ahead and hit the subscribe button and you will get access to the subscriber-only Discord, where we do all sorts of cool, spooky things. We do like little mini live streams over there too. It's super fun. We can just hang out and talk about whatever we want. And it's a great way to support the channel. So if you enjoy what I do here and you want to support a little bit, feel free to subscribe, and you get cool emojis too. And also free tarot readings at some point when we get people who are interested in it. We're going to do some of those over in the Discord. So, all right, guys, guest box is open. Anybody wants to come up and share their spooky story? We want to hear your spookiest spooky story. We want to hear the story that scared you the most. So come up and tell us about it.
Don't be scared. We're just a bunch of nerds here.
We are total nerds.
Yeah, not me, but everybody else in here is.
Yeah. Well, mostly you, actually.
Yeah, Lori, we're usually on for 3 hours, so it ends about 2 a.m. Eastern time.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, little slow tonight. Hopefully it picks up.
It will. It always does.
Yeah.
We just always have some downtime at the very beginning, it's always like this, so, but that's fine.
Yeah, we're missing
Um,
the Boo Crew tonight.
yeah, it kind of seems like it.
Yeah. I like when they're here because they do all the work for me. Spooky, I know you're in here. If you have any more stories, you can come up and tell us.
Hey, Raven.
Sarah, you know what? I think you might have to tell us a story. I'm putting
I
you
don't
on the
want to
spot.
tell us. I know, I don't want to tell a story. I told you I
Oh.
have low levels of razzle dazzle tonight. My razzle dazzle's too low, and um, I don't know. I'm having all this hay fever. I'm struggling over here. I'm struggling to survive. But
Yeah.
yeah, so I don't think I'll be doing any marathon talking tonight, or else I'll end up having a pollen induced coughing and sneezing fit probably. I feel like I
Yeah.
might sneeze right now, actually. It is allergy season. Gosh, I hate it. It's awful. Usually it doesn't bother me. This is like the first year in a long time where I've had allergy problems. So, kind of weird. But, Chris, I think maybe you could tell a story if you wanted to.
Oh boy, I think I might be out of stories. I think I think you guys have heard I think you guys have heard them all.
It's okay. We could sit here and ramble for a little bit.
Well, you know what? I'll just tell one of my short stories while we're waiting for a guest here. As soon as somebody comes up, I'll shut up. Because I don't think Cat Mama and our regulars have heard of this one. Um, this was actually my very first spooky incident that I had. I was really small. I can't remember exactly how old I was, but I was at my grandma's house and I was watching Courage the Cowardly Dog, which is an awesome cartoon, by the way. I love that cartoon. Uh, but I was watching that in the living room, and it was pitch black dark. Only light was from the TV, and some of the moonlight was coming in through the window, and I saw a person, like the silhouette of a person, walk by the window, and it just really creeped me the hell out because this was late at night, probably like midnight or something. Um, and what's really creepy about this is that my grandma's house had like a giant barbed wire fence around it, so you couldn't really get in without a key. So it's really strange. I really have no idea who that was. But it really scared me, and it's been kind of burned into my memory ever since. So that's my first spooky incident there.
Yeah, that's a good one. Definitely, definitely pretty terrifying to see a shadow. Because I mean, the first thing you think is that it's like an intruder, and
Hmm.
far scarier than any ghostly activity is to think that somebody's prowling around your house at night. Yeah, that would have freaked me completely out.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, that was pretty creepy. Um,
I was actually going to ask you, what was our best story last night, would you say? Because we had so many good ones. What was the best one or the one that you remember that stands out to you?
um, you know what? To be completely honest with you, I'm kind of blanking on last night's stories because it was such a wild live, and we had like some we had some moments last night. So I think they
Yeah,
kind of overshadowed the good stories that we had. What about you?
I think you're right. No, yeah,
Well, we had a
it's
Ouija board story,
definitely.
didn't we?
Yeah, we had all kinds of stories last night. It was such a whirlwind. I don't know. I don't know that I have a favorite one. I know which
Uh-huh.
one that I like the least, but I I don't know about a favorite one, but yeah, I was just curious if any of them stood out to you, like if you had a favorite one from last night.
Yeah.
The
Well,
guy
I
with
did
the
like the.
squirrels. Yeah, I
Oh,
saw that.
oh my gosh. Yeah. Definitely not that one. I did like the guy's UFO story. I mean, I'm big on UFOs, so I love it when we get a good flying saucer story in here.
Yeah, yeah, we had some good UFO stories last night, for sure.
The pink nail polish lady. Who's that?
Oh, I see that. Do you remember the story where? Oh, I dropped my earbud. The lady who came on and said that she was in a hospital
Uh huh.
and the nurse had pink nail polish, but then later someone told her that that nurse wasn't ever there.
Oh,
Do you remember
yeah,
that one?
that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that was a good one too. I would
Um.
I went out to use my reverse psychology here. I think it always works though. Have you noticed that?
It does. You know what? It already worked and you haven't even done it yet.
Hey, Spooky.
Hi guys.
Hey,
Um,
what's up?
well, I have a story. It's not really my story, but it's one of my great aunt's stories. And I thought since there was a lull, and it's not really that scary, but it scared her pretty bad. But she was old. Hi, Raven. Um, so she was a psychiatric nurse, and she took care of either autistic children or adults, or badly mentally disabled people. That usually their parents or family left them at the facility and didn't come back for them. But there was one guy that she got, and she didn't understand why he was there. So apparently, when he was 19, this man enlisted in the army and then went AWOL and was missing for 7 years, and they declared him dead. And then one day he just walks into a hospital all dirty and um, no identification or anything. And the last words he spoke were, "My name is," oh, I can't remember. I know it was Marion. His name was Marion something. "My name is Marion. I've been dead for 10 years." And those were the last words that he spoke until like she quit that job. He never spoke again after that. So what freaked her out about him is he was 7 foot tall, and he didn't speak, but he didn't just not speak. He paced back and forth continuously unless you asked him to stop, and then he would stop and get his blood pressure or whatever. But he would also mimic speaking, but just like his voice didn't work. And sometimes even by himself, he would just be mimicking these words and talking to himself, and even throwing his head back and laughing. And that always really freaked her out. And so she took care of Marion. She was there for a long time. I can't remember how long, but she said she took care of him for many years until she got an offer for a better job that was closer to home. And on the day she was leaving, she went and told all of her patients bye. And she walked into Marion's room to tell him bye. And he was just sitting there laughing at her, like that fake laugh that he does. And well, she said, "Well, bye, Marion. It was nice to take care of you. I hope you're okay." Da 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 da. And then when she left, she turned around and Marion is standing in his window, still laughing his like empty laugh. And she said she got cold all over and got goosebumps. And she said she swears, even though it doesn't make any sense to her, that she had been taking care of a ghost for 10 years.
Holy
I believe
cow!
that man was alive.
Wow, that is crazy.
Yeah, that's wild.
I thought that one was always pretty weird.
Yeah, it is for sure. Um, let's see.
Yeah, spooky. If you have any more you want to tell us, you can. Well, we're waiting for more people to join. If you don't, you can hang out in the up here with us, right, Sarah?
Yeah, absolutely. If you want to.
If you want to.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I don't really have. I know that. So my grandpa was a sheriff, and I know that I used to go to work with him. And I know that there was like, I don't know if it was actually true or just something that they used to tell me because I was, a tiny kid in a police station. And but they used to tell me that there was this cell that there was an old man who that he was like the town drunk or whatever, and he would come in all the time, and they would always give him the same cell for him to sleep it off, and then they'd let him go. And after he passed away, they said that that cell door would sometimes just randomly pop open, and you could hear him coughing in there. And it always like, well, it freaked me out. Well, I think that was just because I was a kid. But if I like walked by that cell, I'd get all goosebumpy, and I'd be like, oh no.
Yeah. Yeah, that's creepy. Spooky, where are you from?
In Victoria,
Well, you
Texas,
don't
but
have to.
I am in southern Indiana.
Southern Indiana. Are there any cool haunted places by where you live? Uh-oh. Yeah, I think Spooky, I think you're cutting out a little bit in and out. Right, sir?
Yeah. Yeah, we're having a little bit of an audio issue for some reason.
Oh no. Well, we have another guest.
Did she? Okay. Okay.
Yeah, just come back when it gets fixed, Spooky. But you can hang out.
Yeah, you maybe like drop down and come back because it's cutting out pretty bad. Um Tinks, thank you, by the way. I saw you sent some stuff, so thank you. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
Um, Raven's going to come up and tell us a story.
Ooh. Raven, are you there?
Hey guys, can you hear me?
Hello.
Hey.
Yes.
Hey, so Chris was asking if about towns that I know, people know, and Arizona has a pretty spooky town called Jerome up in the mountains, and it used to be a mental hospital area, and back in the 70s, people were dying from all sorts of diseases in the mental hospital, and they didn't know what to do with the bodies. So they would burn them, and it's said that all the bricks around the town were made from the ashes mixed with the cement of the dead people.
What the heck?
You could
Oh my
actually
gosh.
Google it, Jerome, Arizona.
I'm going to Google it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's actually kind of down the road from where I live, so. But yeah, it. Every time I go there, people are like, "Oh, you know about the town? You know what the town's made out of, right?"
Yeah, that's crazy. Never heard about that one.
Holy
Oh,
cow.
someone said
Yeah,
they
I
were raised
Googled
there.
it. That's so weird.
Anyways, that's all I got.
Alrighty, well, thank you for coming up and telling us about
Yeah.
that. That is very ominous.
Yeah.
I know it's creepy.
Yeah. Let's see. Do we have? Oh, we do have somebody.
We got another
Um,
guest.
yeah, Raven, did you want to hang out or?
I can hang out if you like.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'll go ahead and bring up the next guest then.
Hello.
What's up, guys? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
All right. Cool. All right. So, the story told to me by a friend who kind of wants to remain anonymous. Uh, anyhow, so He said he was hanging out one night, and this story takes place in Toyak Reservation, and it's a little Ute reservation here in the Four Corners, and I guess he was married to this woman out there at the time, and you know, got kids and stuff, and um, anyhow, he's having an argument one night with his wife, and you know, he just wanted to get some fresh air, so goes outside and kind of goes. They live in a complex, it's just like a little small, I would say, little small housing unit area, and anyhow, so he goes outside and he gets in his ride and you know lights up his cigars because this guy is telling me he loves his cigars, so we're there smoking his cigar and he's like just kind of looking around and he kind of he's looking around the houses and he this fence area kind of caught his attention there and he said there was looked like a kid outside at night and it was like he thought it was a kid at first and he was just wondering like what the hell, like why would there be a kid out there at this time of night, and it was pretty dark, and he said he could see that back of that house housing area and there was a fence there and he said this small person was standing there. He was sitting there, he said. And he noticed, he was like, what the hell? It's like a dwarf sized person. He's just sitting there and he said he can see the outline of it. I don't know, he didn't say anything about seeing the clothes of it. He just said it was he's seen the outline of it sitting there and he's just watching it and that thing's kind of looking around and just staring back at him too, I guess. And he said it stood up on that little fence thing. That little fence, it's not too high. It's like about, I don't know, like a little wooden. It had like a little wooden bracket, I would say, and little posts on each side. And he said it got up on there, and he can just see it walking back and forth, kind of just like it was playing or something. He's just kind of like watching, whatever that was, and it jumped off. I don't know. He said it took off or something. He went back inside and told his wife, or I don't know. He was kind of freaked out about it when he was telling me, talking
Wonder
about
if it
it.
was some type of fae, like a gnome or a brownie or something like that.
Yeah. I don't know. He just kind of described it as like a small being, and it, like there was nobody out there at night in that reservation, and where that area is, it's close to their tribal buildings and all their offices there, and it's just kind of weird. And they just lived off to the mountain there, and it was just kind of strange like that. Anyhow, so just wanted to share that story. Appreciate you guys listening to me and letting me come on tonight. And yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. We appreciate you.
Yeah,
yeah,
thanks.
yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks.
thank you.
Very cool. All right. Sure, we had somebody, but they have vanished. All right, guys, guest box is open if anybody wants to come up and
I think the
tell a
5
story.
horsemen.
Horseman? What?
Yeah, I think the 5 horsemen said he had something.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, hop in the box if you got a story. It could be about any of these topics. We want to hear your spookiest spooky stories, so feel free to jump up here and tell us all about it.
Welcome back, Spooky. Can you hear us?
I hope it's fixed now.
Yep, we can
Yeah,
hear you.
sounds pretty good.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I have one that's kind of silly, but it scared me when I was a little kid. Well, I mean, you know how little ghost stories are. This is not real. Well, to my recollection, it's not real. I don't know. Maybe someone out there's had this experience. But this story is called Dave. So it's a homeless guy, and he's walking down the street when all of a sudden a horrible storm breaks, like terrible rain and hail. So he runs and comes across this abandoned house. And the door's kind of propped open a little bit, just big enough for a cat. So he pushes on the door until he gets inside, and it's surprisingly warm in there. And he decides to lay down and take a nap. And during his nap, he gets a little scratch on the end of his nose, like a little itch. So he opens his eyes to itch his nose, and there's a little black cat sitting in front of him. And he's like, huh, that's weird. But he goes back to his nap. A few minutes later, something else wakes him up, and he opens his eyes again, and now there's two black cats. And one of them says to the other, should we tell Dave? Oh, should we wake him up? And the other one says, no, we're going to wait for Dave. So, distraught, but thinking he's asleep, he just goes back to sleep. This time again, he opens his eyes. Now there's three black cats. This one, the new one, is a little bit bigger than the first two. And he says, are we still waiting for Dave? And the other two say, yeah, we'll wait for Dave. And so he wakes up one last time, and this time the room's full of cats. They're all much bigger. And one says, Dave says he's almost here. So the man takes off running into the rain and says, you tell Dave I'll take a message. It's just a silly story.
I don't get it.
I think it's supposed to be like there's something bigger, scarier coming, and the cats are just waiting for it.
Oh, okay, I see. No, I understood it. I got you.
I was just trying to fill the time here. It wasn't. It was just something to tell each other from when we were little.
No, we appreciate your stories.
It is kind of slow in here tonight, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's always slow at like 11:30. It's always like this, and then by midnight it goes crazy. So I was just trying to enjoy it. But Chris panics when we don't have like back-to-back guests.
Oh, that's not true.
I think you're afraid that
That's
I'm going to
a
make
lie.
you tell stories, is what it is.
Oh, Sarah likes to put me on the spot. That's why.
Yeah,
Filling
I
time, you
do.
guys. I'll fill your time with a little. It's not a spooky story, but it's just a funny story. So back in the 90s when I was a teenager, one of my best friends, her family would drive down to Florida to visit her grandparents, and me and another one of our friends, we would house sit for them because they had a dog and a couple of cats, and they would always go during the summer. So we would spend like the week at her house sitting and dog and cat sitting. And I swear to you, her house was haunted. One, her grandfather did die in her bed. Well, I'm sorry, not in her bed, but in her bedroom, right? Um, and I swear to you, every time we would house sit for them, they had like this little plastic clock that was mounted up on the wall. Like I guess it's like a cul-de-sac of rooms, and it's like the two bedrooms and the bathroom, and it's like the clock was mounted up on the wall, and I swear to you, every time that I would house sit for them, that clock just wound up falling on my head and hitting me in the head. It wasn't like a heavy clock or anything, it was like a little plastic clock, but I swear to you, it always freaking happened. And then I would sleep on their rollout couch sometimes, and I swear to you, one night I was trying to get to sleep and all I could hear was people whispering. Not spooky, but kind of funny.
So, like the clock, like if you just walked past it, like it would fall,
Yes.
or
Yes, like if I
oh my
walked going
god,
towards the bathroom, it would just always fall and hit me right in my head.
oh my god.
Oh my gosh.
It's probably our grandfather saying, "Get out the house."
Yeah.
That's crazy to have beef with a clock.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, Age is back. Let's bring Age up and see if he's got another story.
Hey guys, this one's for
Welcome
Chris.
back.
So this story's for Chris. You know. All right. So this story take. Oh, thanks. This story takes place. Uh, when I was living down in the Ute reservation, and it happened at night too. And I'm not sure what time of year it happened, but it was kind of cold outside. I would say it was dark and it was getting dark, and I could still see outside. But anyhow, so I was inside the house, and I remember coming back out and sitting in this little truck, this broke down little truck that was parked there, and I'm sitting in this truck and I start to smoke my weed, and I'm just sitting there, kind of trying to relax and just just kind of, I don't know, whatever, space out or whatever. And I look to the passenger side, and I'm looking out, the truck, the front window there on the passenger side, and I see this little windstorm kick up, and it was just like a whirlwind, it just came out of nowhere like a small tornado, and then it, was coming towards the truck, and I just see this guy come out of that whirlwind. This little, he looked like a little person, like a little boy or something. Well, he just came flying past the truck really fast, and then I seen him, go past me, and he just went towards whatever. He just ran past me real fast towards behind me, where this dog house was, and this trees back here, and I jump out real quick, and that whirlwind just kind of just disappeared. The guy disappeared like really fast, and it was so strange. I mean,
Is this the same area you saw the other little person?
no, that was a different person I was talking about. He
Oh.
sees those things, but I definitely haven't seen anything. But I've definitely encountered a lot of ghosts. I would say a lot of, I call them spirits. Ghosts. Um, Definitely interesting. That really was an interesting encounter I had. And then that same house, um, there's just been all kinds of paranormal things going on there, like spiritual activity. I would say there's a lot of activity inside that house where my mom lives and her common law husband, and that's his family's house, and that house kind of goes back in time, and he doesn't really talk about it, but there's been quite a few people that live there, and some of them have passed on, and you know, I think some of those people are still um, live around there, and my mom has told me that she's seen a little boy, in this van that my sister had bought a while back, and she said she was driving, and She's just seen this kid sitting there in the back of the van, like he just popped his head up, and it was like this little Mexican kid. And she looked in that rear, the rear view. I would say the mirror that kind of goes up, where you can see in the inside the car, and she just seen that. It was so strange the way she said that she seen that. So I kind of believe that spirit that went by that truck. I believe that was that kid. Maybe they just kind of run around like that. Um, yeah, I mean, there's just all kinds of paranormal activity around there. My mother has seen a Sasquatch there in that same area, and I think I told you guys that, right?
Yeah, I think
Anybody?
he might have told us about that, but if you want, you could go ahead and share that one again.
Oh, okay, yeah, she was just telling me, she was telling me by detail what she was doing. She's kind of likes to go outside at night and water the grass, and yeah, just kind of feel that breeze and that coolness from the air. And she likes the nature. My mom, she's kind of like that. She's spiritual like that. Anyhow, so she goes outside the house one night, and that's years before I came to live there. I was gone in the city. I was over there living somewhere else and doing other things. And anyhow, so she comes out and she starts watering the grass, and she kind of enjoying herself, kind of just minding her own business, feeling nature, feeling that evening breeze, and just feeling good. And she said she noticed something to her right side of her eye, kind of something moving around over here by the shed. She was telling me, and she said, "There was this being standing there behind the shed, and he was looking at her, and she said he was tall, and I was she was telling me where exactly how where that Sasquatch was standing behind the shed, and that shed went down to the ground, like down to past, I would say, its foundation because of all that water and stuff. And damn, that shed was like 10 feet, like 8, 10 feet tall, like somewhere around there. And it like when I reached out, I'm like 5'4". So, I would try to reach up my hand up there, and that I still couldn't touch the top of that shed and the back of that shed. And it was like another couple extra feet up there. And she was just telling me it was standing there. And when she locked eyes with it, she kind of froze. She did froze. And she was scared when she seen it. And it was all hairy. This guy was just standing there, and he had hair like almost like a, I don't know. She was saying his like pointy head, like almost kind of like a curvy pointy head. He's got hair all over his face, and all over his arms, his neck, and his legs. And he was standing there, and behind the shed, he's kind of like watching her. Then he came out into full view. He stepped out into full view, and she seen how his body looked. He was really he was massive. She said he was just reddish brown, and she was just staring at her, and she was just staring at him, and you're just kind of like in a trance. She was telling me she felt like she felt was kind of trying to tell me. I think she felt she was like she was powerless, kind of almost like it was hypnotizer, like with his ability or his spirituality or something. But she told me she couldn't move, and she was afraid. and that thing just stood there watching her, and after some time, I think she kind of got some strength in her. She hurried up and she had the water on. She didn't go and run and turn it off. She hurried up and ran inside, and the water was still on. And she was scared, and she ran back inside, and she told her common law husband, and she told him, "Hey, there's something out there. It's tall and reddish brown. It's kind of spooked me out." She was telling her husband, and he's just like, "Yeah, they're out there." He's kind of just saying it like that. He's like, "Yeah, they're out there. The spooks." He's saying, "That's why I don't go out there. I just stay in here after dark. I don't go wandering out there like that." I just stay where I'm at and kind of know his place. Yeah, he's just she was just telling him, "Go out there and turn off the water." He went out there with his rifle. He's looking around, and he didn't see nothing. Thing already took off. And years later, here I come along. I live in that place, and I start to experience some ghosts inside that house. And so I like to be outside all the time, and she's telling me her Sasquatch stories, and don't go in those bushes way out there. Don't go wandering out there. And I would go out there trying to look for this Sasquatch, and I did find a Sasquatch bed close to the in the area. It was kind of strange when I found it. I was kind of freaked out myself. The way it made a bed for itself, like out of grass, and just kind of a spot where it can lay down and stay hidden. And a lot of trails around that area, trails that you would wonder who is making these trails. That's what I always wonder. Is like, where the hell is this thing at? I mean, I looked everywhere. I looked up and down that whole area. I went close to the mountain, and when I went on top of the hills, I found some of its tracks coming down the hill, and try to follow those. They go deep in the mountain, and I don't go way out there. I just kind of try to see where it goes and close by if it's hidden, but nothing close by. Anyway, my whole story about that. Yeah. Well, thanks for letting me share.
Thank you so much for coming up.
Oh yeah, sorry if I put you guys to sleep.
No, you're fine. We appreciate you.
Go to sleep listening to Sasquatch now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Did someone else hear that? I swear I heard something.
Was that you, Raven?
No.
Oh my god.
I swear that wasn't me. I was like, wait. I stepped out of the room and I come back and I hear that. I'm like, what?
Oh,
I've been on mute.
guys, we have
All right.
lost the plot.
We have. It's crazy tonight. Everybody tap the screen, send hearts. We gotta get the numbers up. Get back in the algorithm. Tap tap tap. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. Let's get Liz up here.
Hi, Liz.
Hi, how's everybody doing?
We're
Good. How are
good.
you?
Good, good. Thank you for having me up. I just had a quick story. Yeah, I like to listen to lives when I cook and stuff. So, I grew up in a haunted house, and it kind of set the tone for a lot of things in my life. Hey, everybody. so, so I had a client who I was helping, take care of. I'm a caregiver, and this was about 10 years back now. And just for context, this was a religious woman, Christian, very strong Christian woman. And we were just sitting, talking, and all of a sudden, everything went gray. This is like a glitch in the matrix, and I mean everything. It was like the whole world had vanished in that moment. And I don't know how much time passed or not, but when I came to and I was back in the room with her, I straightened up. I'm like, let me be cool here and pretend that nothing happened. But she saw the same exact thing I did. And then she said to me, "Did you see that?" And it was just this really weird, surreal moment because it wasn't just me witnessing it. This weird gray took over everything, like the universe vanished. So that's my glitch in the Matrix story, and I think it's pretty cool. But yeah, that's really it. I just want to come up for a quick story. And I grew up in a haunted house too, so I have lots of stuff. But I don't want to talk too much, and I'm sure there's other people who want to share
Tell
stuff
us
too.
about growing up in the haunted house. I know you got lots of stories. Go ahead, let it out.
If you have time.
I mean, where do I even start? There's just a lot of stories on that one.
You
And
can't
these are
just
just
say I
stories from
grew up in a
me,
haunted
like not
house.
other people. Oh, sorry, what was that?
Oh, I said you can't just say I grew up in a haunted house. Bye.
Well, I did mention that in the comments earlier. But yeah, I mean, it started when I was young. Even on my street, I live in New England. Not to dox myself too much, but it's just a really old part of the country. And even as kids, my best friend said that she saw a man in like the 1700s garb one day. And ghosts, I've seen ghosts too. Uh, there was my brother had his girlfriend living in the house for a little while, and she brought a very weird energy into the house. And we had an intercom system for a while because my parents were a little bit older and just make it easier. Um, and his girlfriend heard something come through the intercom saying, "Come into my world." And she comes barging down the hallway, scared as hell. "Did you hear that?" And I heard something, but I wasn't really paying attention because it wasn't for me. Um, and then I saw her grandmother in the house and her grandma's dead. I saw her in the house one day, walking down the hallway. uh, and yeah, that's a couple of the stories from the haunted house.
Yeah, definitely. That's really awesome. Any input on that? Okay, I think. Yeah, no, that's great.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, but that's really it. I just wanted to share a little bit.
Wait,
And
wait. You never saw any spirits in your house when you were growing up?
Oh, I'm sorry if I was talking a little bit fast, but I have just like food upstairs in
Oh,
the
you're
oven.
fine.
Um, but I mean, there's been, look, when I don't know how much people give credit to numerology or not, but when I got older, I learned that the house I grew up in was a seven, and supposedly to numerology, that can be like a really spiritual sort of a connection. And I mean, everybody in my house, me and my mom, we'd be sitting and talking, and sometimes we would see shadows move, like shadows that were not supposed to be moving. And we'd be like, "Did you see that? I saw that." And it'd be like those sorts of little things. Um, what else in the house? But yeah, generally it was just a spooky house. And I guess it sort of made me a little bit of a magnet to this kind of stuff. And I think when you're open to it, you see it a little bit more. But I saw an apparition. I saw someone's grandmother, her ghost, visiting in the house, and I'll never forget it. She was a completely gray. It was just stuff like that just stays with you. You just never forget it. Just a gray little lady floating down the hallway.
Oh my gosh, that's creepy.
Yeah, so thank you guys for letting me come up and share my stories really quick. But I am going to head out and have dinner and go to bed. But it's been fun listening to everybody.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming up. We appreciate you.
All right,
Yeah.
I don't know how to drop.
I got you.
Thank you.
Thanks. All right, guys, tap the screen. We got a keyword a minute ago in one of the stories, so we're probably getting like kind of pushed down a little bit. We got to get back into the algorithm. So everybody, if
Yeah.
you can, just tap the screen as much as you can for as long as you can, and that'll get us back out there. All right, let's bring up Barbie.
Hi, Barbie.
Hello?
Hi.
Hey,
Oh,
welcome.
what's going on? Hey guys. Um, I was here last night, so I got um, hooked. So here I am again. And so I was talking to some people, some of my friends, and I was like, "Hey, I shared about this TikTok site, and so my friend reminded me of a story of when I think it was like our senior year in college, and so we went to go visit a friend who lived in Boston, and basically we went out drinking one night, and um, we're out pretty late, and it was probably about like maybe like 1:30ish to, and so we're like totally bombed, and we're walking down the street, and we hear like this almost like it sounded like a cat like going like wow, but it sounded like a human imitating a cat. So at first we were like, what the heck is that? And so we're walking past this, like, it was in between like two city buildings, so there was like this fence in between the two buildings, so you couldn't really see what was going on because the fence was really tall. So the sound was happening um, right like at the back of whatever kind of courtyard that was. So so of course we're like inebriated, and so we're hearing the sound. It's getting louder and louder, and as we get closer and closer, it sounds like like a person who's been harmed, and we're like, wait a minute, maybe we should help or see what's going on. So at that point, um, we look up, and like I said, it was in between two buildings. We look up to the top left, maybe like the second floor, and there's this guy who's uh on the like that wire, not the metal thing, like the fire escape, I think they call him. He's on the fire escape, and he's like, we can't really see like his face, but he definitely looks like he was in a fight of some sort, because he's got like something didn't look right. It looked like he was like he had like cuts or something on his face, and he literally jumped off the fire escape, and whatever sound we were hearing stopped, and like I said, it was a really eerie like sound. It sounded like a human imitating a like a cat, like cat scream, and we just I remember looking at him, and he looked at me, and I was wearing like we were both like wearing like ski boots, not ski boots, but like winter boots, and we ran so fast because we didn't know what the hell was going on. It must have been like, we still don't understand what we saw, but this guy looked like um he kind of looked like a homeless guy. Like, I think about it a lot because I'm like, what the heck, what happened? And I was kind of thinking like, the guy broke into the apartment and like threw somebody out on the fire escape or something, or we just didn't know what happened. And like that's always been like a really scary thing that's happened in my life, and I just never really thought about it a lot. But it was like, we're like, did we just like walk into like the last stages of like a like a breaking and entering or something, or like someone getting really hurt? So it was really like a scary, it was like a scary experience that was strange. It was like a great night that turned into like something really really weird. So that was
Yeah.
it was really
I,
scary.
there's something I can't remember exactly what it is, but this is jogging my memory a little bit. I feel like wasn't there a we'll say serial unaliver who made animal noises to like draw people? Do you think it could be something like that?
I don't think so, because I remember like when we were walking down the block, I remember other people hearing the sound too, and they were just like we're like, what is that? And people were just like, we heard people saying, oh, it's probably a cat, like a dying cat or something. But either, it was so loud. I remember like there were a couple of cars that stopped at a stop sign, like rolled down their windows, and they were like, what the heck is that sound? And as we got closer and closer, um, it got really, really eerie. It was almost like, uh, I don't know. I'll never forget I'll never forget the sound, but I don't want to say it was like a person like dying, but it sounded like someone. It sounded. I mean, uh, I can't really. I could imitate the sound, but I don't want to sound like a moron. But it literally sounded like someone imitating um like a panther sound or a cat
Yeah.
sound, like almost like jokingly. Because at
Yeah.
first you're like, that sounds pretty funny, and then when you actually listened, it was almost like a person who was like maybe calling for help. I don't, and that's what really makes my hair stand up on the back of my neck, because I'm like, oh my god, what if it was someone who needed help and I was just, out of my face and I didn't do anything. So, and
Yeah.
and I saw this guy, this like who looked like a homeless guy with like cuts, and he was all dirty, and like he had like long um like matted hair. There weren't like dreadlocks, but it just looked like a person who was like, you know, it was just very dirty. And and the way like who would jump off of a second story uh, fire escape, that was like weird in itself. So, and as soon as he landed, maybe like a second or two later, that sound stopped. So that was even more strange. And I just remember looking at my friend, we're just like, did you just see what I saw? And then we just ran. but but I mean, it was definitely
Yeah.
strange.
Yeah, that's unnerving for sure.
It was totally unnerving, but it's not really like a supernatural story, but it's like just an example of like, some weird things that people say.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate you coming up again and sharing that with us. That's definitely falls under the category of spooky for sure.
Hmm. And I got another one. This is actually, I remembered, I remember this when I spoke to my friend who lives in Massachusetts also. He's from Malden, Massachusetts. And he used to be my best friend, like growing up, and when I used to go to Maine for the summers. And so we were like Maine is like known for like all its lakes and stuff like that. And so my friend Dave was older than me, so he used to always like, you know, um, he was able to like purchase like alcohol and like, so he was always kind of like the person who would get the party started, because he was able to, to get the, the case of beer or whatever. So there was one night we all decided to go to the beach, and we had this barn fire, and and of course he brought the alcohol, and like there were maybe like 15 of us, maybe 10 to 15, and So it's getting towards like, people are starting to leave, and like, the designated drivers are like, oh, come on, we gotta go. So maybe it was like, I think like four of us, but Dave and I were on one side of the barn fire, and two other people were on the other side, and the fire started dying down. So we could, in Maine, if you guys have ever been there, you could see every single star in the sky. It's so beautiful. Like it's like even at nighttime, it's like really bright because there's no like smog from the cities or anything. So it's really like it's really clear when it's clear night. You can see like everything, and so pretty much we're. I think there's someone had a cat. Anyway,
Sorry, my
so
cats are fighting.
and so we're lying there on our backs, and I remember saying to myself, I'm like, oh my god, I can't drink anymore because I'm gonna get sick. So we're laying there on our backs, and all of a sudden, this triangle shaped, um, like I don't want to say UFO, but this like um, this triangle shaped like aircraft, we'll say, like went from like my 2 o'clock to my like 7 o'clock, and it didn't even make a sound. And me and Dave, I just remember looking at Dave, and he looked at me, and we saw this like just creeping over our heads, not making a sound. And I was like, did we just see what did we just see what I didn't want to say the word UFO, but he's like, yeah, we did. And we never really like made anything of it. We were just kind of like, because it was just, we're like, we thought we were like cool teenagers, but and he reminded me of that the other day. I mean, last night, because I was telling him about the site, but what do you call it? So that it was really strange. Like, it happened so quickly. Like I don't even I don't even it just like I couldn't really remember the details of it, like because it just happened so quickly. And so I don't know if anyone else has had something like that happen, but I mean, it's just something I couldn't explain. But whatever we saw was pretty. It was pretty big. I would say it was like the size of boy, it was about, I would say maybe like 50 to 60 feet wide, each side of the triangle. And the weird thing about it was when it was flying over me, I was expecting to feel like a breeze or or hear something, you just didn't. So that's what made it even more strange. It was as if like um, you're laying on your back, and like someone just uh, throws like a paper airplane like over your head. It was that quick. It was like 4 seconds of just seeing something weird, and then you just life goes on. So that's my, I guess, UFO story.
Very cool.
Awesome.
You got something, Chris?
Oh no, I was just saying that's awesome. I love UFO stories. You know me, sir.
Yeah, we do. We love UFO stories here.
Yeah.
All right, Barbie. Well, thank you so much for coming up. We really appreciate it.
No problemo.
And yeah, come back if you have any more.
Yeah.
Everyone follow Free Mind? He needs like 50 more followers to come up. And there's like 150 something of us in the room. So if everyone would just give him a follow, he could come tell his story.
Yeah. That'd be great.
Yes. Yeah. Guest box is open, guys. If anybody wants to hop in, tell a story. It can be about the paranormal, extraterrestrial, cryptids, unexplained, glitch of the matrix. Chris loves those. Those are his favorite, glitch of the matrix. My favorite is anything involving aliens. That's my favorite.
Yes. It's mine too. Glitch in the Matrix is my second favorite. To be clear.
Yeah, that's true.
I sound like a nerd. I feel like we haven't plugged the box enough tonight, Sarah. What do you think?
Go for it.
Me?
Yeah.
Well, I can't do it as good as you, but if anybody has a story, please come up and share it with us. We'd love to hear it.
Oh, Allie's here.
Oh, Alicia, yeah.
My cats are doing some kind of shenanigans in the floor underneath. I don't know what's going on
I
down
think
there. I hope
everybody's
it's
cats tonight are going crazy.
yeah. Well, it being spring and all, the creepy crawlies are like out and about, and so I'm like
Oh,
terrified that there's one in the floor somewhere. So I'm like looking all around, like what's going on down there, guys? But they're
Big
being a little
moths.
vague. All right, we got somebody already. Let's see what VR has for us.
dun, 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 dun. Hello.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. You have a story for us?
Oh, my whole life has been paranormal. How many do you want to hear?
We want to hear your spookiest spooky story.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Oh, there's so many. Okay. Um, okay, so since I was little, like the earliest age I remember things happening was 3. And I'll tell you one that happened. Let me see, how long have we been here? We moved. We actually moved. I've had experiences with where I could see their ships, what you were just talking about. And I'm waving my hands out my car. I was going to Baker College in Auburn Hills, Michigan. And I got out of class and I headed home. This is during the day, you guys. Plain blue, beautiful skies. And going through Lake Orion, Michigan, to get to Oxford, where I lived. And there was a McDonald's on my right. Traffic was at a standstill. And right above McDonald's, everything on the ground turned like a shadow. All right, and see, what I was going to school for was criminal justice. So I'm like, what? And I'm looking, and this shadow is going across the whole road, the cars that were stopped. And I could see it. And I'm like, I rolled down my window, and I'm like waving at the guy next to me. And I'm like, look up, look up. It was a ship. And I could draw it to this day. I could draw it to this day exactly what it looked like. And he's looking up. This is the strangest, weirdest thing. He was looking up and he's like, he puts his hands up like, what? What are you talking about? I don't see nothing. I'm like, you don't see that? I'm yelling at him, you don't see that? Look at the road. It's all like being shadowed. But the ship or whatever this UFO thing is that I seen was reflective. Does that make sense? Like it was completely silver, like
Yeah.
a really shiny silver, and it looked like 2 octagon in a centerpiece, like it would be like where they went from one spot to the next, and both of them were like octagon, and it was so low, and it was quiet. I remember specifically, I never heard anything, like absolutely nothing. The only reason I even looked out my windshield or through my window, rolled down my window, was because I knew something was above us, because it shadowed the gas station, it shadowed all of McDonald's, the parking lot, and the 4-lane road that I was on trying to get home. That is the only reason I looked up, because that would make sense. What's going on up there, you know? And nobody else caught on to it. I just felt like I was all alone, and I'm like, you don't see that? You don't see that? And he's like, no. I'm like, it's right there. It's like, it's not even 200 feet up in the air. What do you mean you can't see that? It's right. And it went It went across the highway. Well, I don't call it. I shouldn't call it a highway. The road going through Lake Orion, Michigan. It went across real slow. No humming, no nothing. I mean, there was no sound to this thing, and it just slowly glided. And once it got past the 2 lanes, I was going in the 2 lanes going the other direction. It went past the buildings. I remember there was a law office to my left and a couple houses, and then there was a big lake, which is called Lake Orion Lake, and that's the way it went. And I sat there holding up traffic in shock, like I was in shock and awe. But what I found strange was, why could I see it? And this guy that to my left was like, "What are you talking about? There's nothing. I don't see anything." I'm like, "You don't see the shadow in the road?" He's like, "Yeah, I see the shadow." I'm like, "You don't see that up there. Look again." And he goes, "I don't see anything. I see clouds." I looked out my window again. I'm like, "Nope, it's still there, and it's gliding." I could see it plain as day. Like, why? What I don't understand, because I don't know a lot about that stuff, is why could I see it, and I could draw it to this day exactly what I seen. And I remember telling my best friend when I got home, I was all shaken up. I'm like, "Am I going nuts? Why could I see it?" And I was yelling at that guy to look again, please look again. Do you not see that? It was like reflective, though. Does that make sense? Like such a silver. It was like silver, like not
Like
like,
whom?
yes, thank you, like a mirror. Does
Yeah.
that make sense? Like a mirrored, like chrome, if that makes sense. And
Yes.
I just, after that day, I mean, I couldn't even do my homework, and I had a test the next day in college, and I was just so razzled, you guys, that I was like, "Am I going nuts, or did I just see a ship?" Like, and it was so low. And it shadowed the whole road, McDonald's, the people that were in the line. There were so many details I took note of within seconds of looking around. Everybody was just driving along, like you don't see a shadow that huge come across a 4-lane road and not look up, do you? Would you guys? I mean,
Yeah.
I just can't make
Yeah.
sense of it.
Well, I know
That's
what you're talking about. That makes perfect sense to me. And you know what I think it is? Because I've had an experience where someone else was with me and I saw something amazing and they didn't, and there was no reason why they shouldn't. I think some people are not as perceptive. They're just not as observant about their surroundings. And I've actually read a little bit about this online. A lot of people are not really that aware of their surroundings. So you may be someone who is more conscious and thinking about, like what's going on around you, whereas the next person may not be. And I think that's probably why. But yeah, that sounds like a pretty amazing encounter.
and it was so low. It was so amazingly low that I I was in shock driving home, because it there was not a sound to this thing.
Hmm.
And I was in criminal justice at the time. I was taking like all kinds of criminal justice classes to be a police officer. That's what I wanted to do. So I mean, investigating, I was in criminal evidence, all these things. And then when this thing happened, I mean, when you're going to school for stuff like that, they tell you to look out for certain things. So maybe, and one of the things that was drilled into me is to be aware of your surroundings, pay attention to different things that stand out, or aren't right. And when I seen that shadow come across, I knew it was something in the sky. I'm like, there's no way it's safe. If that's a plane, we're all in trouble right now. Like, but I heard nothing, no engine, no humming. And I've had other experiences with if you guys quickly would like to hear. So
Yeah.
my whole life, my whole
Let me just.
life.
Can I just ask you really quick? How big do you think this thing was?
It wasn't like a mothership or anything. It was like one of the babies, I would think. This was like the two round pieces at the ends. looked almost like octagon, round,
Mhm.
but octagon at the same time. Oh gosh, let me see. I'm trying to measure like each round piece, okay, and then the centerpiece, which my intuition was telling me that's how they walked from the second round piece in the end to the first round piece. Like that was how they traveled back and forth from one section to the next. When I
Right.
looked at it, that's what thought came to my mind was, oh, that's how they get back and forth. I mean, I really took this thing in. I could draw it. That's how focused I was on it. I couldn't turn away until I had to talk to that guy. Like, you can't see that. I would say, okay, so you know how big a McDonald's is, right?
Oh, I do.
I would say this thing was probably about 3 times the length of a McDonald's.
Oh,
And
wow.
3 times the length of a McDonald's building,
Uh-huh.
maybe two and a half to 3 times the length of a McDonald's building, but the width, uh, 1.5 times the width of the wide width of the round pieces, the round octagonal looking pieces, 1.5 times the width of each McDonald's. Like, and then the centerpiece was just like, you guys ever, go to an airport and you've got those, you go from the like parking garage area and you got that walkway that goes in between those buildings to get to the airport part. Do you know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about? That's
Yes.
what the centerpiece looked like, just like that.
That's really interesting. I've never heard of anything like that.
Yeah. Well, I've never seen anything like that. And then, if you guys want to hear the second one, it woke up my whole family and my daughter was screaming. We were sleeping, and I had this light, like in the wall, like it was attached to the wall in our bedroom, me and Brian's bedroom, and I just remembered that light turning on and hearing a very, very, this is the total opposite now. Uh, mm, mm, that. And every single light in my house went on. Now, we were all sleeping. This was in the middle of the night. And it kept going, and I'm like, what the? My kids started screaming, Mom, Mom, there's, the whole house is lit up like bright, bright. Like, I can't even, you guys, you know how they've got those new LED headlights on cars? This was probably 50 times brighter than those in my yard over my house. And I lived in a manufactured housing community. And I tried to look out. I went, of course, running down the hallway. My boyfriend woke up. He's like, what the hell is going on? I'm like, you don't hear that? I don't know. I don't know. A plane, something. I don't know. But the whole house, my lights lit up. And then doop, they were off. Everything was off. Everything, like my electricity. I don't mean just like turned off. I mean complete silence and blackness. And then the light, that's when the light came on from outside and it lit up my whole outside of just my place. Like above my place. And I was just like, and oh my gosh. And I could hear the it was I know my voice is horrible, but I wish I could do it like it did. It was just like a perfect hum, and then it would pause, and then it had another hum and a pause, but when the light came on, I I wasn't scared. I was trying to calm down my child, but I wasn't really scared. If I know that probably sounds like odd, but I've had weird things happen my whole life, so I've kind of adjusted, I guess, mentally to it. I'm just like, whatever, you know. Um, when I looked out the window, I'm like, all right, I'm going outside. I'm going outside. Something's here. Something's going on in the sky. Something, you know. As soon as I went to go open up the door and swing open that we had a second door, like it's the bottom part's glass, or bottom part's like, what is that, netting, and the top part's glass. As soon as I went to open that, the lights went off outside. The light went off outside that was lighting up my whole yard. And these houses are right next door to each other, okay? There's maybe 10 feet between each house. But the lot next to my manufactured home was empty because they had pulled it. And it was just lit up like so bright you couldn't see. You couldn't even see the other houses. That's how bright it was. I've never experienced something like that since that close. But when I went to go open up the door and go outside, the light turned off, and my lights in my house came back on. Isn't that weird? Like, I have to this day, no explanation. But I was going to go outside and go, hey, what the hell is going on here? What? You're scaring my child, I wanted to know, is it a helicopter? Is it somebody around my house playing games? Am I going to have an intruder? I mean, there was all kinds of things I thought of. But the light, I will never forget the light. It blinded me from seeing any of the other manufactured homes in my community. I couldn't see nothing.
Yeah, that's actually pretty amazing, and it definitely sounds like extraterrestrial activity. Because have you ever seen like the Tesla coil experiments where like if somebody builds like a little Tesla coil and then you kind of get close to it with like a light bulb or something, the light bulb will light up even if you're just holding it?
No. Sorry.
No.
No.
You could probably find it online pretty easily. I was trying to find one real quick so I could kind of point you in the direction of something, but that's really what that's making me think of. And there's like there are a lot of theories that UAPs and UFOs and stuff like that produce a lot of electrical charge. So it makes a lot of sense to me. What you experienced, could have had something to do with, potentially a UFO coming close.
Or like I don't know how far up it was, but I was listening when I opened up the door. Before I opened up the screen door, I was listening to see if I could hear anything like blades, like to a helicopter. Maybe they had a spotlight. I was trying to rationalize it all by saying, oh, maybe they're looking for somebody that escaped. You know what I mean? There was a camp behind the community I lived in, and that I don't know if they weren't like inmates. They were like troubled children there to get their lives together. And I thought, well, it's got to be something like that. But the hum I will never forget. When the other experience I had, there was absolutely nothing, no sound whatsoever. And then I've had other experiences. I don't want to hog your live here, but I've had some terrifying ones too. Just terrifying. I was frozen in my bed one night. My boyfriend was laying literally right next to me. Brian was, and I remember waking up with the most fear. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this. The most uncontrollable, like you knew it was evil, fear consumed my whole body. And I opened up my eyes, and the next thing I know, I'm being dropped to my bed. So whatever was there levitated me off my bed and then dropped me. That's something I never got over. Like, what was that? Like, my body was like in I don't know how far up off the bed, but I remember whatever it was not going to let me move. Wouldn't let me move. I couldn't speak, you guys. I couldn't scream for Brian to help me. I couldn't move. I couldn't do nothing. And I remember the ultimate feeling was nobody can help you, was what I was sensing. Somebody, whatever this thing was in my room at that moment, nobody can help you. And I said, oh, yes, there is. Jesus Christ is my Savior. And the blood of Jesus be on you. Archangel Michael, please help me. And next thing I know, boom, it was gone. just that fast. There's just so much stuff, and it's good I came across your live because there's not a lot of people open where you can tell them your true experiences you've had that you have no explanation for. It's nice to know that you have this platform where you can do this and people can share their experiences, and that's just a couple. I've had hundreds, maybe thousands of them throughout my life since I can remember. I've seen people their face shift in front of me, and I try to play it off because I'm like, I don't think I was supposed to see that, but that's not a human. What do they call it? Since I've been on TikTok, I've learned they call them reptilians or something like that. I was 3 when that one happened, and my dad was shaking the guy's hand, and he had me up in his arms. And I remember looking at him, but I didn't see a man, you guys. I seen something else, and I started screaming and trying to crawl up my dad's shoulder to get up on his back, and he didn't know what was wrong with me, and that was what was wrong with me, is because I was looking at this man he was shaking hands with, and I wasn't seeing a man. I was seeing, well, I don't know what it was, but it wasn't a man. But my dad was seeing a man, I think, but at 3 years old, and that's something I'll never ever forget. And he was shaking this man's hand like, how you doing, guy? It's nice to see you again, blah, blah, blah. And I'm screaming, trying to climb up my dad at 3 years old, and started screaming. And the guy went to go touch me, and I just looked at him and just started bawling, like, don't touch me, don't touch me. There's so much, so much weird stuff. But the one with the weird UFO things, I wanted to share with you guys. And,
yeah, definitely. And we really appreciate it. And if you want, hang out in the chat, listen to some stories. And later on, if you think of another one, feel free to come up and share with us.
Yes, there's been many. But thank you. Thank you for giving me a few minutes. I just don't want to hog your live. And this is my first time doing this. So thanks for giving me that opportunity. And I'll be sitting here listening to you guys. I really enjoy I'm so glad I found you. I'm going to follow you now.
VR, before you go, I have one question. So you said you saw the guy change shapes when you were little. Has it happened to you? Has it happened to you as like a teenager, adult?
Nope.
Just when you were a kid. It has?
Yes.
Okay. One more for us. Can you just please tell us when you were an adult and you saw someone shift?
Well, I was more of a teenager. I don't know if I consider myself adult. I think I was like 16. 16, 17 maybe, when that happened. He was just standing there with other friends. I don't even remember the guy's name. I didn't know him, obviously. And there was just a bunch of us together. And probably 4 or 5 of us together. And I just happened to, how you quickly look, you think you hear or see something, or maybe I just was looking, my senses kicked in or something just to look. I seen and it was a man, and younger man. He wasn't older or anything, you guys. He was, maybe a couple years older than me, maybe 20, 21, I don't know. But his face, it had these, grooves and grooves in his face. And his nose didn't look like ours anymore. His eyes didn't look like ours. And it was almost like I had to do a triple take. And I know for a fact that he knew that I knew, because the way he looked at me, which even creeped me out even more. And in my head, in my head, I said, we're just going to pretend this didn't happen, right? That's what I said in my head because of the, we're just going to pretend this one didn't happen, Valerie. You did not see what you just saw. That didn't happen. But he had grooves, like it looked like grooves for his skin. And it was a different color than, our normal skin tone. And his nostrils were different. His nose was different. His eyes were different. And it was almost like if you take like a sheeny sheet, like a see-through or like, I guess it'd be like curtains, those see-through curtains that are floaty and airy that you usually put by sliding glass windows or maybe in your kitchen window. They're the sheer drapes. It was like that lifted for us. I don't know, 1, 2. I'm trying to count how many seconds did I see him. 1, 2, 3. 3 to 4 seconds I was looking at him, and that whole time he was like that. And then it was almost like it went from top to bottom, back down, and he was back to normal. So 3 to 4 seconds. And to me, it felt longer than that. But as I'm counting, 1, 2, 3, 4, it was about 3-4 seconds, but long enough to know I knew what I seen. And in my head, I said out loud to myself, "Yeah, we're just gonna go now. We're leaving right now, and we're gonna just pretend like we did not see what we just saw." I mean, and I left, but I know he noticed that triple take I did because I was having a hard time believing it myself. You know what I mean? And you know what a triple take is, right? Like your head jolts back like 2 or 3 times to look again. Like if you look away and look again, you thinking it's just in your eyes or your imagination. No, all 3 times, 2-3 times I did that, he was still the same. So that's 1, 2. That's about 3-4 seconds. It's something I never forgot, and I told my best friend about that one too. My best friend knows about. Well, she's witnessed stuff too, right along with me. My whole life, she's known me since I was 13, 14, so she knows everything. Everything. A big ball, like a sphere of bluish purple light coming in out of my back bedroom in the back part of our mobile home. And I was out on the deck having my coffee and a cigarette. It was late in the evening, like past 10:30, 11. And it looked like it was like my deck was only not even 2 feet from the back corner of my mobile home. And that back part of the manufactured home is my bedroom. It looked like it came out of the wall of my bedroom, and it was just floating like 3.5 feet, 4 feet up in the ground. But I could see it between the shed and the back part of my house. And I wasn't startled then either. I don't know what's wrong with me. There's something wrong with me, you guys, because I wasn't startled then either. I was just like, I did like a look like, oh. And I said, oh, this is what I said on it. Oh, hello there. I see you, peekaboo. And I started laughing, like jokingly. Well, this sphere, it was a purplish blue. It froze because it was doing like a circular, like jaggedy, like circular thing. But when I spoke to it, it stopped. It just froze. It stopped. It didn't move. I'm like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have said anything. Uh-oh. I'm like, hello, I see you. And I started giggling. I'm like, I see you. Yes, I do. And I'm like, who are you and what do you want? And with that, like probably a couple seconds went by. And you know what? That thing was so fast. It was just zoop up in the air, straight up, gone. Just whoop, gone. And I was like, did that go up or did it go down? I mean, I really had to think about it because it was that quick. Did it go up or did it go? I don't know. I'm thinking up. It just, boop, gone. And, I went out there. on my deck, you guys, for nights and nights and nights afterwards, hoping to see that thing again, and I never did. I never did. So to this day, I have no idea what that was. No idea. But I can tell you it was the size of a basketball. So that's pretty big. I mean, to me, this, and it was perfectly round, but it was like a purplish blue. It glowed. And you know, this is late at night, so I'm like, why does this stuff have to happen when nobody else is around? Nobody else can see it. I can't have a witness. I even went inside and tried to get them to come outside, but of course it was gone. But I was like hoping it'd come back, and nope, nobody wanted to come outside. The other person was sleeping, and I'm like, I'm going back outside. Maybe it'll come back, but maybe I'm supposed to have fear of these things, and I don't know why I didn't. I just said, hey, hello, hi there, peekaboo, I see you, and I giggled. And I don't think it liked that because it just stopped, froze. So I know it heard me, recognized me, or maybe it was like thinking whatever it was. Oh shoot, somebody's, I can be seen. And then I'm like, hello, I see you. And then, poof, it was gone. I don't know. Have any of you ever experienced anything like that one?
Not personally, but that's very interesting.
Yeah. I always wondered what that was. A perfect round, and it was about the size of a basketball. Maybe just a tad bit smaller. But I just remember it was perfectly round. Perfectly
Yeah,
round.
sir. Have we had stories? We've had a story like that before, right, sir?
We had, I think it was like 2 weeks ago, we had two stories on two different nights that I don't know if it would be like the exact same thing, but the object, I guess you'd say, that the people saw was kind of like small and it was UFO like, but it wasn't a UFO because of its size.
Right.
But I don't personally know much about that, so it was kind of a new concept to me. But yeah, I guess you'd say that it's kind of in the same ballpark a little bit.
So there is been other people that have been here on your page that has said that, like they've
Something
had,
similar, yeah, not exactly, but kind of similar. And
Yeah.
then
Like
one of the
will-o-wisp.
stories, yeah, kind of like that, yeah.
wow. Well, I'm glad there's other people out there where they've experienced something like me, because I mean, all these years, you try to tell people this and they'll think you're cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, and I shared it with my best friend, and every time she would come over, she's like, "Do you have
Oh
any
God,
tea?
Bible thumper.
Do you have any tea to tell me anything weird happened?" And I'm like, "Well, I had a man whisper in my ear, 'Well, hello there.' You know, you sound like a cowboy. Well, hello there." And I'm
Yeah.
just like, "Oh, Jesus. I just got off a movie set. I did 16 hours. I'm tired. Hello. Goodbye. Good night." you know? And that was it. That there's so much. I don't want to hog your life. I don't even know how to get out of here back into um the chat part.
Well,
She'll. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
yeah, we appreciate you coming up. Definitely
Thank
hang out,
you.
listen to some stories, and thanks for sharing with us.
No, thank
Yeah.
you for
I gotcha. All right, guys, tap the screen, get some people in here. No Pants Penny, if you're still with us. Sorry, guys, I've got a lot going on right at this very moment. Welcome.
Hi, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah,
Yes.
we can hear you.
Okay, so um somewhat similar to what the last person was saying. Um, I don't know. I've never been someone that was really afraid of the paranormal. I was a weird kid. I'm 37 now. I was in the military, and obviously, while in the military, I served in some areas that were pretty. Um, I guess if the idea that like trauma or sadness or those types of like negative feelings could possibly be part of the reason for paranormal activity, um, these situations would, I think, qualify for that. But what's weird is I didn't experience anything while in the military. I didn't experience anything on deployments when I was on old aircraft carriers. And I haven't experienced anything even at a abandoned mental asylum in Iowa out in the country. It's on multiple acres. Um, they used to do lobotomies there. Oh boy, they used to um, lock women up for maybe having like infertility or difficulty with their periods. So just a lot of turmoil had happened at that hospital. And I worked as a domestic violence, sexual assault victims advocate for the court there in Iowa. And because it was like a nonprofit agency, we just rented a small office in one of these giant buildings. And being the weirdo that I am, born on Halloween, I have always found all things spooky to be just super interesting. So I started kind of wandering around one day when we didn't have any clients and it was a slow day. It started snowing. And if you know anything about Iowa, you can really get a blizzard and 6 to 12 inches of snow in a day. So my dad had been calling me and my husband had been calling me saying, you should head home because it's about a 45-minute drive to get back home. And I said, no, I think I'm gonna do some exploring today. Not too many people came in. And so they were kind of like, oh God, Penny, why are you doing this? So I took some time and I started going down some different hallways that weren't really locked, but maybe they would have like a piece of furniture in front of it or whatever. And some of these rooms, some of these hallways even, were left exactly as when the folks that were in the insane asylum 30, 40, 50 plus years ago had left them. Anything from the paint to a little doll to the bedding, artwork, poems. Obviously, a lot of it looked really kind of destitute because it had been there for so long and there was some water damage, etc. I went down to the area where they would incinerate the bodies. And then I also took a walk around the grounds there, and they have a cemetery because oftentimes, especially 40, 50 years ago and beyond, if you had a loved one that was not deemed, as a quote unquote normal person in society, you might drop them off at an insane asylum and just kind of wash your hands of them. So a lot of times these folks were buried, their graves maybe weren't marked, or there were some mass graves, and they were just given like a pauper's grave because the family no longer even kept in contact with them. So to say all those things, during any of those times, whether I was at the abandoned hospital or I was, in Afghanistan, or if I was on an aircraft carrier that is very old, I never experienced anything paranormal. But here's when I did experience my first and most intense paranormal story that I don't even think I can vocalize for you guys, but I'm going to try. My parents got divorced around when I was 7 years old. We lived in a tiny town, but my parents had an acreage. The acreage had a very old farmhouse on it. As I stated before, I was a weird kid, and I had an older brother, 7 years older than me, And anytime he had a chore to do and it was night or early morning and the sun wasn't up, he was afraid of the dark. So he would always, kind of come and pester me to have me go with him. And I did because one, I wasn't afraid. And two, I'm just excited my big brother wants me to hang out with him. So I also was very bizarre in that I collected clowns. I had well over 100 clowns in my bedroom, and I had no idea that some kids thought they were creepy. The farmhouse had a long aisle where one bedroom was, and then on the end of the other aisle, when you first walk up the stairs, was my brother's room and my parents' room. And the reason why I was at the long end of that aisle instead of my brother, who was 7 years older than me, was because he was terrified of the room. He was terrified to sleep in the dark. Um, I guess again, being weird, just didn't care. I didn't think anything of it. So my parents got divorced when I was 7, and my dad stayed in that farmhouse. My mom bought a very small little yellow house in town. And I sort of remember the first time we walked in that house, it just felt kind of heavy, kind of damp, um, just kind of like the hair on the back of your neck would maybe raise, or you'd turn around and think maybe something was there, but nothing exactly happened that made me think, okay, something's bad here. And I was young. So I would often at night, especially at my mom's house, I would go to bed reading like Goosebumps or Babysitter's Club and listening to music for like 30, 40 minutes before bedtime. That was kind of, my parents were like, if you will read, you can stay up a little bit later. So again, being the weirdo that's born on Halloween that collects clowns and isn't afraid of the dark, I'm hanging out reading my Goosebump books, and I get kind of tired, so I set it down and I fall asleep. And then sometime in the middle of the night, I didn't have a nightmare or anything, but I woke up very abruptly, and I had this instant feeling of fear, terror. I had never experienced anything that strong before. It felt life-threatening. And I just remember my eyes being wide open and I'm looking around. And my bunk bed was kind of over by the door. And then on the opposite side of the room were two closets. And the only thing I can really describe it as to me is like a demon. I don't know truly what it was, but it seemed small. It seemed kind of short, like not to be disrespectful towards anyone, but when we think of the size of like a small person, someone previously called a midget. I know that's not the appropriate term now, but that's what I mean, a small person, about that height. And I could tell, or I felt like this was a man or had some sort of male energy. And as soon as I opened my eyes and I knew that just something was definitely wrong and I was in such intense fear, I kept kind of like touching my face and kind of smacking my cheeks like I'm awake, right? This isn't a nightmare. And I just looked over. I was in my bottom bunk, and from maybe 5 or 6 feet across the room, this shorter, kind of male presenting demon slowly almost glided, like he just slowly glided towards me, and it felt like it was almost in slow motion. And I felt this deep natural fear that something told me, like, if this thing touches you, you're it will have you, you'll be dead, and maybe something worse. And my family wasn't super religious. They're like mild Methodists, but I'm agnostic now. But I still can't think of anything else other than demon that this thing would have been. So I start screaming as it seems to slowly glide towards me. And I'm the youngest in the house, so I know it's not another kid. My brother's at my dad's house, and it's just my mom and my stepdad. My mom and my stepdad come busting in the room because they know I'm not one to have nightmares. I'm not one to scream. I'm not one to really get afraid of things. So they both came to the room like with their ass on fire, honestly. And I'm screaming, "Turn on the light, turn on the light." And as soon as they get to the door, they turn on the light and they like my mom kneels down and she's like, "What's wrong? What's going on?" And I'm like, "Did you see him? Did you see him?" And they were like, "No, you must have had a nightmare." And I got up out of my bed and I said, "Mom, I did not have a nightmare. Something is here." And I'm bawling. And I also was not a crier. So my mom really, I think at that point knew something's off. Could it be, you know, a person that got into the house? I don't know. So my stepdad was the sheriff of our county. So he walks all through the house. He's got his gun. I'm sorry, he's got his pew pew. He is checking everything, clearing everything, just making sure it's not, a person that got in or something. Well, right before they came in and I screamed for them, I remember he got very close to the bed before my parents could get there, and he started to reach his hand out also very slowly. And his eyes were red. I think he was wearing maybe like some sort of like cape or cloak or something, like nothing super particular about his clothing, but his face, I could see all his characteristics in his face. And as he got closer to me, he started to bend his head down and then look his eye, like his eyes would roll up and he'd look at me while slowly starting to smile. And it just was this primal fear that I just couldn't even explain. So after my parents came in and they kind of calmed me down, they were like, "Well, we all got to get back to bed." And I was like, I can't sleep. I'm not sleeping in here. So my mom's Southern, and she always would make a pallet on the floor for us if one of us was sick or whatever. But my stepdad had something early to do that morning. So my mom made a pallet on the floor in the living room for me and her. And we were going to sleep in the same bed so she could get some sleep that night and I could get some sleep. So we get everything kind of gathered and we're starting to make our little pallet on the floor. And I had calmed down some, but I was still, kind of on edge. I was definitely feeling like something wasn't over. And right as we lay down, my mom has the TV on, so there's a little bit of light. Right as she starts to fall asleep, and I can kind of hear her, her breathing slow down. She snores a little bit, and I'm starting to kind of get tired as well. Our TV is in the corner, and this was probably like, I don't know, 1990. So it's a big TV, not like a flat screen, sitting on the ground. And this exact same, what I would call demon, slowly raised from behind the TV, where we also had a large plant. And I started like kind of shaking and like trying to like hit my mom under the blankets, like, "Mom, look, look." And so she turns around and she's like, "What are you talking about?" And she says she can't see it. And I was like, obviously surprised. Sorry. Um, but I don't really remember much after that. I think my mom stayed up with me a little bit longer because I claimed I could still see it. It didn't move from behind the fireplace. Sorry, it didn't move from behind the TV where the plant and stuff was like it did before while it was in my room, but it just watched me with this big, creepy, malicious smile. And I don't really remember what happened next, but I eventually fell asleep. And I don't know. I'm not a religious person, but thank God I've never seen that creepy dude again. It's definitely made me interested in paranormal and what other creatures could be out there. But I don't I don't know, why I've never had another experience, but that really was, to this day, like I think I mentioned I'm 37. To this day, I can remember what he looked like, how it made me feel. And I don't know, what it is exactly, or do a lot of demons look like this thing? I don't know, but it was super shocking. And I don't really think anyone in my family ever believed me, but they did definitely find it out of character for me.
Real quick, guys, if everybody in the chat can go ahead and tap the screen as much as you possibly can. We got a hate speech violation a minute ago, and I don't know if the live's going to get taken down. We got to be really careful on these lives what we say. Language has to be kind of censored. So if you send likes, send as many as you can. It'll kind of protect the live and keep it from getting taken down right now. We appreciate you coming up and sharing your story with us. I'm going to have to go ahead and drop you because I'm not sure what's happening right at this very moment, but thank you so much for sharing that with us. We
Oh,
really appreciate
sorry.
you. We appreciate you. Thanks.
Thank you. Sorry if I said.
Yeah, I don't know, like, I've never got one of these violations before because I'm usually pretty careful about this type of stuff. Um, but we do have a good number of likes, and we've had quite a few gifters tonight, and I know for a fact that protects the live. Raven, nobody reported us. She used a word that you can't use on a TikTok live, an offensive word, and I got a hate speech violation. So there's that. From now on, guys, I think we're gonna have to just drop people pretty quickly when stuff like this happens because it's like I'm gonna get the punishment for it, basically. Unfortunately, that's how it goes here on TikTok. But all right, guys, just tap the screen, send some hearts, get the number up a little bit. Hopefully, we don't get shut down tonight. Ali, welcome.
Good evening, everyone. How are y'all?
Stressed out. How are you?
Same. I was dealing with a whole bunch of crap because when I came in and I just set my phone onto the live and I said I'll be back, I was just like hopping into the shower. I think I was like, getting something. I got my cats fed, and then for the life of me, I smelled something because I lit some tea light candles. But the fact of the matter is, my mom was helping me. She opened the wrong bag. So they were citronella candles. They're for outside. So I had to like go and grab them all and yeah, set them outside. Um, and then change them. Goodness.
Oh wow, citronella candles. I'm allergic to those. I can't even be near them. I get so sick. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was I don't know. I kind of had a sweat. But yeah, I'm here. What did I miss?
Oh my gosh, you have missed so much tonight. This has been the weirdest stream, like from beginning to end. But yeah, so I got my first violation. I've never got one on TikTok before. Hopefully I don't lose my live streaming privileges. I'm sorry, TikTok AI. I had no idea that anybody was going to use offensive language. We won't do that here anymore. But yeah, from now on, guys, we're going to kick immediately. So if you got to be careful what you say. Be mindful that, of other creators' platforms and things like that. So, but hopefully we've got a pretty good number of likes. And like I said a minute ago, that usually protects the live. So hopefully we'll be okay. It hasn't shut down yet, but if I disappear, guys, that's probably what happened. So I appealed it, I think. I don't really even know because I've never done this before. But that's pretty much what you missed.
Oh, okay. I was like,
Yeah.
I was feeling like there was a bunch of little people stories that probably came through and missed. I was like, oh, is anybody else running a little rescue for the little folk? So
Yeah, we have had some little people stories tonight, like elf people or fae people. Yeah, we've
Yeah.
had some of those.
and I know they're very prominent. And I did not know this as much to this day. In Greenland and Iceland, they really believe in the little folks over there, like drastically. So it's kind of like, on my list to travel and figure out. I would like to go there and probably even visit Ireland, see what's up.
Yeah, I wish Jared was here. He always has interesting things to say about Ireland. I would love to go myself.
Yeah.
Huckleberry, no, I do not have a backup account. I've never needed one. Um, but um, and also, guys, real quick, do not type the word in the chat. That will also you're gonna get muted if you type the word in the chat. Don't put it in the chat because it's a derogatory word. Anyway, Ollie, how are things? You got any spooky updates? Any interesting stuff going on right now? Or
That means a lot of just regular world stuff has been happening. So kind of been like dealing with that. Um, Updates on what was I gonna do? Oh yeah. An update on, well, speaking of little folks, I kind of sense a different kind of energy that's in the backyard of recent. This happened right after the eclipse. So recently, and I feel like it's not the Bopoli, but it's something else, and I'm kind of like trying to read into it safely and see what it is. Don't feel malevolent, but I feel like it's similar. I think we got two kinds of little folks in this property. Um, but I mean, apparently healing because something is happening. I haven't been in the backyard until today. At all. In the backyard's like 1/3 of an acre. Like it's pretty big and grassy with bushes and trees, and it's been only my parents that have been working on there on the daily. I see that my father, who is recovering from cancer, is a lot more on the amend. Like he's been in remission for quite some time, but I don't know if it's the flowers or I don't know if it was the daisies or I don't know what it is. But something somehow is speeding up his recovery, and it could just be that he's gardening. He's happy. So, but yeah, I'm just like settling in, trying to see if a lot of people can come up, share their stories, and then probably be motivated to, dig down and deep and see what pops up.
alrighty, so you want to just hang out a little bit, and I'll bring up some guests.
Yes, yes, bring up some guests, please.
Alrighty, let's do it. We got John. John always has some good stories for us.
What's up, John?
Hey guys, good to see y'all tonight. Thanks for having me live. All my stories are always ghost stories, right? That's all I got. But I'm going to go back to like really early stuff. I've mentioned before that my whole life we've always had ghosts around us. My parents have stories about before any of us were born, when they were, newlyweds, some of them quite scary. So growing up, at some point, I stopped being terrified of the supernatural. I started being curious and interested in it. And most of my stories are about me, telling things that don't really scare me. But that's not how it started. It started off very traumatizing and terrifying for us as young kids. I think, including for my siblings, they would tell you well, I know they would, because we talk about it as adults and they talk about how scared we were as children. There was one house where we have a lot of really what I would call traumatizing memories. I'm not going to try to go over all of those while I'm here. I'm just going to try and hit a few highlights that were like the most scary in that childhood home. And all of us were very small. I think I was maybe first grade age in this house. And the interesting thing about it is this was a new construction, so it wasn't an old house. We were the first family to live in the home. It was a brand new subdevelopment. And most of the homes that we lived in always were. My parents loved buying new homes. So that's why I'm convinced all the activities we ever had growing up our entire lives were things following us that started following my parents before we were born. So in this house, I was terrified to go to sleep. I had my room to myself, and then my brothers shared a room, and they were in the bedroom next to me. And they slept in bunk beds. I had my own room, and I would just not sleep at night. Basically, I was an insomniac child because there was something in my room. I knew there was something in my room. I could feel it in my room, the presence the whole time. And sometimes it would do things like touch me, and maybe my parents, because we had strict bedtimes, we had to go to bed at certain times, and maybe my parents would be in the living room watching something, and something would like grab my foot or like poke me in the arm or touch my hand, and I would scream from my parents in terror, and my parents would always tell me it was just a bad dream, and I knew I wasn't dreaming. I knew I was very wide awake. But they would stick with the parental line of like, no, you're just having a bad dream, sweetie. The One of the really dramatic things that happened was in broad daylight. My mom would sometimes make us take naps, and I think it was just she was overwhelmed. So I didn't want to take naps because I was scared to be in my room. We'd had some company over. I think it was an aunt, and my mom had said, okay, now it's nap time. So I was laying in bed and I could hear my mom and my aunt talking in the living room. And then my mom was walking my aunt out of the house because my aunt was leaving. And so suddenly I was in the house by myself. And I don't know, I had such a horrifying terror overcome me. So I got up out of bed. I was going to go out and run out to the front yard and just make up an excuse like, oh, bye, Aunt Cindy, just so I could get out of the house. And as soon as I sat up and my feet touched the floor, a man's voice yelled at me in a very stern way, get back in bed, and terrified me. And I immediately got back in bed and threw the blankets over my head. And there was no one in my room. There was no man in the house. And I was just terrified. And this was the sort of thing I didn't bother to even tell my parents about because they never believed anything I told them, right? So that was one terrifying thing. And then there was a series of night activities that affected all of us, but we didn't talk about it. And so I'll kind of start with the beginning at night. And I don't know how many nights this went on for. I would lay in bed and I can hear all night long conversations in the living room. And they were like like men, I would say, plural, and women's voices, but you could never make out what they were saying. You could just hear people talking in the living room. And I would strain to try and hear it. You almost wondered if you were imagining it, but then you'd hear something so loud that you knew you weren't imagining it, right? But this is why I wouldn't sleep all night. And this went on for multiple nights. One night, because we were allowed to stay up later on weekends, like Fridays and Saturdays, our bedtime was a little later. So we were all watching an old black and white Frankenstein movie as a family on the sofa in the living room. And before the movie was over, my parents said, all right, kids, it's bedtime. You got to go to bed. We were all like, no, we want to see the end. And then my parents were like, nope, got to go to bed. It's time. So we go to bed. I don't know, my parents go to bed at some point. I'm laying in bed and I'm hearing the voices again all night long in the living room, the talking. So I didn't sleep all night. The next morning we get up and my mom's tradition was like, it must have been a Saturday night, because my mom's tradition was on Sundays, she would cook like a giant feast for a Sunday breakfast. And that went on for many years while we were growing up. She loved to do that. So pancakes and bacon and sausage and eggs and everything you can think of. So we're sitting there having Sunday breakfast, and my mom says, John, because that's what she called me when I was a little boy. She said, did you get up and watch Frankenstein last night after we told you to go to bed? And I kind of froze because I knew I didn't. And she said, because we heard the TV on all night long. We could hear the television playing out there. So we know you got up and you watched Frankenstein. And for some reason, I lied. I didn't. But I didn't want to tell my parents that, like, I hear voices all night long, every night, all night. And so I just nodded my head without saying anything, like I was caught or like I had done it. My brain swimming because I was realizing, like, my parents are hearing the same thing I'm hearing all night long. They're hearing the voices in the living room. So she said, "Don't do that when we tell you go to bed. It's bedtime, okay?" And that was in that conversation. One of the nights after that, and again, there were many things that went on in the years in this house. I'm just touching on some highlights. Um, one of the nights, it started with the voices in the living room, but it turned into like this snarling breathing, and it was really faint down the hall, but I can hear it coming up the hall slowly, like a that sounds so cinematic and ridiculous, but to a little boy, maybe a spirit that wants to scare a child, you make very cinematic noises. I don't know. I was hearing this and my heart was like going to pound out of my chest. I knew there were things in that living room and it was coming closer and closer and closer. And like I was just laying like in my bed, trembling, terrified. And as it got right, like it sounded like it was just right outside my bedroom door. And my parents did allow us to keep the hall light on because all of us children were terrified to go to bed at night. But they didn't want the lights in our bedroom, so they would let us have the hall light on and keep the door open so there would be a little bit of light. I was staring at that light to like see if something was going to be at my door. And I could hear this like snarling breathing, and it stopped right at my door. And right when I was getting ready to scream bloody murder, because I was going to scream with all my air power for my parents, it went silent. So I didn't scream. I went like, ah, and like I was quiet for a moment, and I just like listened, and I was looking at the door. There was a couple of moments of silence. All of a sudden, my two younger brothers screaming bloody murder like they're being murdered in their bedroom. Terrified squeals and screams. My parents come out in a panic. I think they're both naked. And they go into my siblings' bedroom and turn the light on, and they're crying and crying, and they're much younger than me. I think I'm the only school-age kid at this time. And they're saying, the mean doggy scared us. And that's all they could describe was that there was a mean doggy in their bedroom. And my parents kept saying, oh no, that was the neighbor's doggy. You guys heard some neighbor dogs barking. But there were no neighbor's dogs barking. I didn't hear any dogs barking. I didn't even hear whatever it was in their room that scared them. But they both clearly heard like a mean dog in their room scaring them. So that was another terrifying thing because I knew as a child, like this was real stuff happening and our parents were not believing us. Another thing that happened in that house, which as things mounted and got worse, is one day my mom just never got up out of bed. And it must have been a weekend again because I remember being in pajamas and I kept waiting for mom to wake up. And, you know, usually mom wakes up and makes you breakfast and does mom stuff around the house, and I would watch cartoons. Must have been a Saturday because it was cartoons. So mom just never got up. She never came out of the bedroom. And we watched all the cartoons, and I don't know when Saturday morning cartoons ended, but we watched cartoons until they ended, and mom still never came out of the bedroom. So finally, when all the cartoons were done, and I wasn't dressed or nothing yet because mom never got up. I was hungry. So I went and tried to go in my mom's room, but the door was locked. And I knocked on the door, and my mom said from the room she didn't unlock the door or let me come in. She said, John, I need you to call your grandma and tell her to come here. Well, I didn't know how to call my grandma, and I didn't know what was wrong. So I told her, like, well, what's grandma's phone number? And she told me, and I went in the kitchen back in the old days when phones were on the wall. And I went and called my grandma. And I said, Grandma, my mom won't come out of the bedroom. She's been in the bedroom all day. And we're hungry. And my mom told me to call you. She says she wants you to come here to the house. So my grandmother came. And she went straight to my mom's bedroom, and my mom did unlock the door and let her in. and I was listening to them talk in the bedroom, and I was really knowing something was wrong. So I was pressing my ear up against the door, and the door wasn't locked. It was just, just ever so slightly open, and I could hear through. And I heard my mom tell my grandmother, and she was crying in the bedroom. She said, "Last night I was sleeping, and John and I had a fight." John was also my father's name. My dad had left the house. She said, "I was sleeping after our fight. John had left, and I was touched on my arm. And when I opened my eyes, there was a man standing above me next to the bed. And he said, 'I'm the devil.' And he said, 'I'm going to kill your whole family, that God has left your family, and I'm going to kill all of you before, it's all said and done,' or something like that." And I went into histrionics, and I started screaming at the top of my lungs, "It's a lie! It's a lie! The devil's a liar! The devil's a liar!" And my grandmother came and closed the door, and she scolded my mom and pushed me into the hall. She closed the door and she scolded my mom and said, "You're scaring the children! You're scaring the children! You need to be careful what you say around the children." And after that, there was a series of things in the house, like people from the church coming in and going through the house and removing things from the house. They believed that objects could bring things in the house. And so anything that was from a garage sale or a thrift store, because my mom liked that kind of stuff, got taken out of the house and given away. I don't know how much longer we lived in that house, but I was never feeling safe in that house. And for many years after that, I would sleep with lights on well into high school years. But slowly over years, this terror, these traumas that my family was experiencing in different houses just turned into me being a more spiritual person and interested in the supernatural, more curious, wanted to be more informed about things, which I am now. And we did have many people die tragically, including my father. Those are stories maybe I would tell later. I don't want to tell them tonight. I do think whatever this entity was, it did try to make good on its promise. So that's the stories I've got for tonight about that house. Always a pleasure to come up and talk to you guys. I love this show. Thank you so much.
Thanks. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, guys. Well, I am so frazzled. I'm kind of wondering. I'm gonna say this in the Discord here in just a second. Let's see. Go ahead and bring Lodge Shells up.
What's up, brother?
Oh, how's it going?
Good.
So, I seen somebody down in the comments talking about those giant owls. I just want to let her know that those are a thing. People do see them. Like I said on my res, my cousin and his wife had to swerve to miss one, and it's in this valley that they held a lot of ceremonies in a long time ago. And that's where I grew up, is in that valley. But those things are real. I just wanted to mention that to her. So, if Ali's still here, I learned more about the eclipse and how my tribe kind of views it, and it all made sense. It all clicked once I was told more about it. And man, if I was to tell this whole story, it would take about an hour, so I'll just really slim it down. So the sun represents the males, because everything is a balance in our way. Everything's balanced. And the moon represents the females, if you can look at it like that. During the daytime, the sunlight protects us, and in the nighttime, the moonlight protects us. There's a balance there. See, there's always a balance. And when women have their menstrual cycle, we call it the moon. That's what we call it, is the moon, right? It's like it comes every month. That's what we call it. And they're not allowed around our ceremonies. They're too powerful at that time because they're going through their own cleansing. They can't, they mess up the ceremonies. They can't be there. So, anyways, with the eclipse, what happens is that's the only time and that's the only power in this world that we know of that can stop the sun is the moon. So during that time, the women are really powerful too, and the men get a little bit weaker during that time. So spiritual energy, if you want to think of it like that, the man's spirit gets a little weaker, whereas the woman's gets a little stronger. And we look at it as the sun's being unalived, but that's his cleansing. He comes back renewed, so the men get stronger too after that. So anyways, he was talking about his father fighting cancer, and that kind of clicked with me. I'm like, huh, I wonder if that could be something to do with it. Who knows? Whatever, I'm kind of spitballing here. But so this first story I want to actually tell is this lady got a hold of me, and she's from Alaska. And wow, so her story starts with her kids. She had one of the kids' dads was from Arizona, and that's where she was living at the time with the Dene people, the Navajo. She was living down there with them. I guess I could just call it her ex's dad was doing stuff he wasn't supposed to be doing, like the bad medicine type stuff. So this entity approached him, and he ended up giving up his granddaughter to that entity. That entity is what we all call the goat man. And so that thing followed her when she went back up to Alaska. And years later, her son started telling her stories about this thing. And what ended up happening was when it first approached her daughter, it was in a closet, and they could only see its eyes from the very top of the closet door. And the daughter didn't see it, didn't actually get to see it, just its eyes. But it made like this book float out to her. And it was showing her a bunch of stuff about, like, how would I say it? I think in the Western religion, the Bible ways, they call it heresy. It was preaching heresy to her. I don't really understand that way, so sorry if I'm messing it up, but she was scared of it, and she was scared of that book because it just floated out to her and like opened to a page, and it was like this really, really old book. Well, anyway, she was afraid of it, but that boy wasn't. For some reason, he was really small at the time, and he wasn't afraid of it, and it wasn't like being really scary or anything to that boy. So instead of bothering the sister, it starts kind of like building a relationship with that boy. And what ends up happening is it visits him from time to time. And when it visits him, the way that boy described it was, and see, because it can take three shapes. It can look like this huge giant goat, to where if it's laying down on its belly in your house, its horns would still be up at the ceiling, like scraping the ceiling, like really huge. The next shape it looks like is a half man and a half goat. Like the bottom half is the rear half of a goat, and the top half is a man, and it's like 7 feet tall. Or it could just look like a regular man. So anyways, when it would visit this boy, it always looked like this huge giant goat, and it was doing really weird things with that boy. Like one day she comes home and there's a fire going in the closet, and she's like, "What are you doing? How are you, don't be playing with matches, don't be playing with fire, you're not supposed to do that, that's bad." And she remembers that time they put out that fire. And but years later, when he was opening up to her about all this, he says, "Mom, that time you said I started a fire in there? I didn't like start it with matches or a lighter. That goat man showed me how to start a fire with magic." Those were his words, because he didn't really know how else to say it. And it was teaching him how to do things like that. So one day, they were moving all of these boxes out of the basement. There was a crawl space down there, I imagine in the wall, and they were moving boxes out there, but they were really heavy. There was a guy down there with them, like somebody in their family, and they were moving these boxes out, and then people would carry them up the stairs. Well, they were really heavy, like totes with a bunch of stuff, really heavy. And they were kind of having a hard time getting him out of there, that boy and that man. Well, that man said, well, I got to go up for something. Must have to use a bathroom or something like that. But that boy was left down there alone. And the mother noticed that he just kept moving the boxes out really fast and didn't know how he was doing that all by himself. And she said, you should probably go back down there and help him again. And so the guy goes back and helps him. And when the boy opens up about that incident, he says, Mom, you know what was happening down there? He says, that goat man was helping me push those boxes out. He had shadows that he was telling to help me move those boxes out, but he stayed way back in the corner. And when that man came back, he kept looking in that corner. He said, so I thought that he knew that it was, that he could see it too. He said, because he just kept looking in that corner, but he'd keep moving boxes, but he kept looking over there. So I just kind of thought he knew. He said, I thought everybody knew, because one night I went to use the bathroom and I seen him standing above you when you were sleeping, and you were talking to him in your sleep. So I thought you knew about him too. I thought everybody did. He said, sometimes I'd be riding the bus home and I would see him walking. He would be waiting for me. And, I'd get happy because he was always showing me cool things. And so one night, he said that he went to sleep and it took him and it brought him to this place where there was a lot of tunnels and it was really dark and they went for a long time. He said, and at one point something grabbed my leg, and he says that goat man told me to pull your leg away, don't let him grab you. He says, what are they? He says, they're sinners. So just don't let them grab you and stick with me. And so they kept walking in these tunnels. And next thing you know, now this isn't a dream, I imagine. And so they get to this place. He says there's nothing but bonfires everywhere. And there's people in cages in those bonfires. He said it was really bad, Mom. It was really bad. And I'm just going to go ahead and tell you the way they told me. And it's bad. All right. So there was meat hooks. He says at one point, they put me on one of those and they pushed me along this line, and I ended up on this, like a table, and there was these great big things that looked like gorillas. He says I could feel every last bite they took of me, and there was nothing left of me but a skeleton. And then they took that skeleton and they threw it in one of those cages where there was a bonfire, and every day, a couple times a day, these great big things would come in there and they'd beat the hell out of me. They'd just beat me up really bad. After that happened, they're religious. It just so happened that he was getting baptized after that, and it never happened to him again. But at one point he was asking it, well, what all shapes can you take? And he told him I could be this big goat, I could be half man, half goat. He says, or I could be a man. He says, but I don't want to. Or that boy says, well, can you show me how you look like as a man? And he says, no. He says, if I showed you, you'd recognize me on TV. So I'm not going to show you. And that story is really, really horrible. I mean, when I think about it, because that's the only time I ever heard of that thing actually coming back time and time again with a family. Normally people just see it and it terrorizes randomly. It doesn't just stick with one family. And I thought that was the most horrible incident of anyone ever experiencing something paranormal in my life that I've ever heard of, like being terrorized on that level. It was just so bad. There's some of the story that I'm leaving out too, but God, that one out. When I heard it, I couldn't even talk. I was listening to this poor lady tell me this story, and her boy was there too, and so was the daughter. But they were letting their mom speak, and they were just telling her things, and it was so bad. I felt so bad for them. But it doesn't come around no more. They've kind of like pushed it away, I guess, but it doesn't bother them anymore. And I don't know exactly how it stopped, but it did. It stopped. So this next story I want to tell is about so spirits come in different forms, right? We all know they come in orbs. People have heard stories of the Hat Man. You name it, you've heard of stories. The LPs, that's what we call LPs. The word that I think triggered your warning earlier. We call that LP. So there's different kinds of LPs out there. Like ours look like little Indians, right? Like 12-inch tall little Indians, just shrunk humans is how they look. Other places they look like owls. Other places look like gnomes. They're all those LPs, but they're all different sorts. They come in all different shapes and sizes. This story is about a different kind of spirit I don't think anyone's ever heard about. And I've never really heard about it either until this time. So there's some people in my family, let's just call her my auntie. They were driving around on this mountain road. This is back when they used to drink. And their car broke down back in those mountains. And on the side of the road, there was a field. Before you actually get into that pass, there's like this field. So anyways, there's some cows out there, and they're all outside. There's like 4 of them. They're all trying to get the car started. Those res rides are really unpredictable, unreliable contraptions, and they're prone to break down at the most inopportune times. So they're all out there trying to get it going. And they notice this cow out there. This cow stands up on its hind legs and it starts laughing at them. And then, as it's moving toward them on its hind legs, it starts doing this dance. Now, all 4 of these people seen it. So, mass hallucination, I have no idea. I really don't believe in that mass hallucination stuff, but they seen it. And it's coming toward them and it's laughing. It gets to that fence, still on its hind legs. It just jumps that fence. And it still keeps coming toward them, laughing and doing this weird dance, they said. And at a certain time, as it got closer, that car started. And as soon as that car started, it went back down on all 4, start moving around and eating grass, acting like those other cows again. That's what I'm saying. Like these spirits can come in all different shapes and sizes. And some of them are scarier than others. But that one right there kind of, I think about that one and I think, Jesus, I've never heard of anything like that in my life. Like, that kind of spirit, it's pretty spooky. So I got one more story. The infamous 7 Mile Lane. If none of y'all have heard of this 7 Mile Lane or me talk about it, it's this really haunted road on a reservation. It actually leads off our reservation. And there's so much that goes on there. There's stories. Geez, every family probably has a story about this place. So one of the stories goes like this. One of my friends, his wife, when they were really young, their sister had got this new car. They're older than me. They're probably about in their 60s now, late 60s. When they were kids, her sister had gotten this car, and they were going to go out driving around with this car, and they end up going on 7 Mile Lane, and they were coming back, and it was nighttime. We all stay away from that road at night. If we have to drive it, we will, but we all try to stay away from that road at night. Like, no native will drive that at night. The only people that drive it are the non-natives that live along that road. They're farmers and stuff, but we do not go there. And so anyways, they end up wrecking. And as they're laying there, they're all kind of busted up. There's 4 of them in that car, including the driver. And shoot, they were all pretty busted up. I mean, not to the point where they would have actually passed away, but, they had broken bones, things like that, and they had injuries because the car rolled. And then when it came back, it actually landed on all of its tires, but by then they were all just beat up in there after it was done rolling. And so as they're laying there, they all start coming to. They must all got knocked out. People were screaming, and they kind of got them to calm down. And the first person starts looking out the window. Do you guys see that? And everybody's, trying to look, but they can't see anything. The one person just starts screaming and screaming, saying, it's got me. It's holding me. But they don't see anything. That person passes away. They wait for a little bit longer. It happens to another one. Same thing, screaming, it's coming, it's got me. That person passes on. And by the time there's only two left, one of them starts screaming again. There was 2 girls and 2 guys. One of them starts screaming again. Do you see it? And they did. They both seen something coming toward them, but it was big and it was dark. They couldn't really tell what it was. And the other girl starts screaming. It's got a hold of me. I can't get away from it. They're just stuck. They're broke up. Their bodies are, so they can't move. And she passes on. And the last one left was her sister. And nothing happened to her, but she tells that story like there's no way they should have passed away from that. Whatever was out there took them. So we call that, I guess you could say, we call that a death spirit. It came for them and it took them. But yeah, don't have one of my personal stories for the night, but I just wanted to share them few. So thanks everybody for listening.
Thank you so much, Lodge. We always appreciate it. Always enjoy your stories.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, good night.
Good night.
All right, guys. Also, real quick, I just want to say, Sapphire, thank you for doing that way. That was smart in the comments. Oh, we are having a time tonight, guys. We usually go until 2, but I'll tell you what, I think we're going to go ahead and call it for the night because we have had like some issues and stuff like with the violation thing and whatnot. And I don't know. I'm on pins and needles now, so I'm kind of worried about like having anybody else up on this particular live, and it's too late to restart it. But you guys definitely go check out Lodge Tales podcast. He has contributed greatly to the stream. He always has great stories to come up and share. And after this live, feel free to go over and check him out. He has lots of videos. They're very good. Also, Horror Chris is a fantastic co-host or whatever. No, I'm just joking, Chris.
Dang.
If you guys like horror stuff, please go over, show Chris some love. Folking Weird. Can somebody type that in the comments? Go check them out. That's one of my mods. Thank you so much to the mods for being here tonight. We've had a wild night. It has been crazy, guys. I appreciate you all. Thanks to all the guests who came up and shared their stories. We will be back next week, next Sunday. In the meantime, if you guys want, subscribe to the channel. That will give you all sorts of perks. You get to join the subscribers only Discord where we do all sorts of fun things. We share ghost pictures, EVPs. We have live chats on there, like video chats. Yes, I do have a Discord. And you get access to it if you subscribe to the channel. What is Lodge's full username? Lodge Tales Podcast. You should be able to pull it up with that, Lodge Tales Podcast. But also, don't forget to follow me here on TikTok and turn on post notifications. It's the little bell on my profile. You'll get notified when I go live, so you'll never miss another live stream. Again, thank you all so much for hanging out with us tonight. We really appreciate it. And we will see you all next Sunday at 11 p.m.
Yeah.
So everybody have a great week.
Bye, guys.